sometimes you do just need a break. So if you do wake up and genuinely think to yourself, I really can't do this today, or I really don't want to do that bit of work today, as long as obviously you're not just about to hit a deadline, it's okay to just sit and watch TV or go for a run or go shopping or go and see your family. There's nothing wrong with doing that if that's what you need.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Homework Help Show Student Influencers Podcast. Today I'm here with Beth Franks. Hi Beth, how are you doing today?
Hi. I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Usually we start with a couple kind of get to know you questions. So first of all, where were you born and raised? And then where are you right now?
So I live just outside a town called Eastbourne. So I'm right on the southeast coast of England. I'm about 60 miles outside London, just for kind of geographical location. I live in the same town that I was born in. I live not that far away from the house I grew up in. My parents have been in the same house my whole life, so I kind of stayed within that little radius. I go to University of Brighton, which is kind of my local city, but I'm quite a way out from there, about 30 miles from there. So I'm really near the beach, and we're only about 8 miles from the beach, in the countryside. So that's
perfect. That sounds nice.
It's a really lovely place, actually. It's quite quiet. Because we're quite far away from the city and the busy city life, it's nice and rural. So there's not much going on, but it's nice and peaceful.
Yeah, I always see like pictures of or on like TV of like the British countryside, and it always just looks so peaceful and like calm.
Yeah, it's what you see on the TV programs and stuff. There's just like sheep everywhere and cows in fields, little country lanes, that sort of thing. That's literally where I live.
Yeah, that's nice. What college or university do you go to, and what are you studying?
So I'm at the University of Brighton, which is kind of my local university, and I'm doing a Bachelor of Science degree in Paramedic Science, and I'm in my second year. It's a 3-year course, so I'm roughly halfway through.
So you're gonna be a paramedic after when you're graduating?
Yes. So it's a bit different now to how it was in the past. You used to learn to be a paramedic by kind of doing the job on the road, and you'd do the courses and build your way up, and that's kind of how you got there. But now they're kind of focusing more on the higher education side of it, because there's so much behind it. There's so much medicine behind it, that now they're bringing in these paramedic courses. I mean, there's some universities more up north that have only just started, like this is their first year of paramedic science. So yeah, when we graduate, we'll become registered healthcare professionals and paramedics.
Awesome. What kind of made you get in, like what made you want to be a paramedic? Was that kind of something that you always wanted, or was it kind of a pivot later?
It definitely wasn't something I always wanted to do. I was the sort of person that would pass out if someone would bleed in front of me. If someone was going to be sick or something, I would run in the opposite direction. There used to be a bit of a joke. People would have like cuts on their hands, really minor things, and I would cringe at them. I just couldn't deal with it. So it definitely wasn't something I always wanted to do. I was really into makeup industry and beauty, and when I was at school I kind of didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I was really good at things like nail art, so that's what I did when I left school. I went and did a 3-year beauty course and was really good at it, to be honest. I loved it, but it kind of wasn't ever enough. I never felt completely fulfilled, so I was just kind of doing jobs because I needed the money and being a makeup artist on the side, and I kind of always knew that I wanted to work with people. I quite enjoyed the helping people, but obviously in a different way. I was helping them feel better about themselves, and with makeup I wanted to work with people that had cancer, showing them how they can still put makeup on and feel pretty, even though a lot of them didn't feel like they could feel pretty. So I always enjoyed that sort of stuff. So I suppose in a way I've always been on the same track, but I suppose it was about 2017 I just did a first aid course just for the job I was at. And really enjoyed it. I just found it really interesting, and I remembered everything. I was just really taking it in on the course. And I suppose it was a couple of weeks after that I helped out someone that had quite a nasty injury to their foot that was bleeding quite nicely. And after that, I kind of just thought about it for a little while. I had an ambulance that came out to that person and they thought I was a nurse. He actually asked me what I did, and I said I was a makeup artist, and he was like, oh, and I was like, why? And he was like, you just dealt with it perfectly. And I was like, did I? So I thought about that for ages. I think I must have been thinking about it for about 3 months before I mentioned to anyone that I'd been having these thoughts. And I told my best friend first, and she was like, what the hell? Where's that come from? And I was like, I don't know. I just keep thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about it. And I eventually told my parents and my family, and they were like, really? They just didn't expect it from me. But I thought about it for a long time. I went and did some voluntary work, all that sort of stuff, and made sure it was really for me, and I wasn't going to be scared as soon as someone passed in front of me.
Right.
And I've enjoyed it. I've just enjoyed it more and more as it's gone on the last couple of years. So yeah, expected.
Did the dealing with blood and stuff get easier along the way?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the makeup artistry stuff helped because I did a lot of like casualty simulation, like trauma makeup. So there was a lot of fake blood. So I think something in my mind was registering the real blood as just makeup. So then I kind of got over it. So it just stopped bothering me. I mean, I wasn't completely okay with it. That's kind of happened more as I've been exposed to it. But now, yeah, I just get on with it. It doesn't even faze me anymore.
So pro tip for anyone else who is squeamish with blood, pretend it's makeup.
Yeah, literally. Go and buy yourself like a Halloween makeup kit, play with it at home, and then eventually you'll just be like, oh, it's all makeup.
I mean, maybe I'll try that. I'm not good with blood right now. So you kind of do the makeup artist stuff as like you kind of tied that in a little bit to the paramedic field, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of, again, how it all started. So I was being a makeup artist, and I knew a paramedic that worked in my local town. And he knew I was a makeup artist. I went to school with him, so he kind of knew where I was going. And he asked me to come and do some makeup for a big rescue simulation. So him, a load of other paramedics and firefighters and policemen, loads of agencies. I think there was about 9 different agencies there. We're going to do this huge simulation, and it was going to be multi-casualty. So it was going to be, I think in total there's 24 casualties that all needed makeup, and he knew I could do it. So I went and helped out. And again, that was one of the things that helped me kind of get into it, because then I'd stand on the side and I'd watch them all do what they were doing, and I was just fascinated by it. So yeah, originally I started off doing things like bridal makeup and proms and all that sort of stuff, but eventually the trauma makeup was more interesting to me, and it was more fun because you can't really go wrong with it. You don't have to get it perfect, because if it's a mess, it's better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did a simulation with them. I've done a couple since being a student paramedic, but now I'd rather do the paramedic stuff, so rather than be the makeup artist. So I'm kind of on that fine line of enjoying it and being a bit jealous.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that sounds super fun though, because you probably get to be like pretty creative with that too, because you know, not every injury is different. So you probably get to like do something different each time, maybe.
Yeah, I think if I look back at the pictures of injuries that I created when I was a makeup student, and some of the ones I've done more recently, they're definitely more realistic now. I think because I kind of know what they look like, and I know how different things bleed and all that sort of stuff. So I think they've got better, definitely, and yeah, it's helped me grow as a student para as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds super fun and interesting.
It's, yeah, a lot of people, when they find out about it, have got so many questions and they want to see pictures and all that sort of stuff. A lot of them then kind of are a bit squeamish after, but they're always interested in it. And it's quite a cool skill to have when you're kind of in this industry before. Before, obviously, I got into it, I had it, but now that I'm in it, it's quite nice to have, because if I need to create something, I can do. And I've worked with people that are doing things like exams and assessments and that sort of stuff that I've done makeup for, and it just helps you pass exams if you're actually looking at something that's real. So
yeah, that would be cool, especially if you're studying like a certain type of thing, and then being able to kind of like, maybe it might help if you kind of made that. So while you're studying a certain, like for example, a certain type of injury or something, if you like, okay, I'm studying this thing, like maybe I'll try to make it like on my arm or something, to learn more about like the anatomy of that injury, I feel like that would be really helpful for studying.
Yeah, so I've done a couple with like open fractures, so bones coming through the skin. They're quite good ones, because the management of them obviously you have to be quite careful. So if you're all practicing on someone that looks like they've actually got that injury, it just works better practicing. You can just kind of visualize it more than you would if you were just pretending there was something there. So yeah, my friends enjoy it sometimes as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I mean, that hands-on practice is, I feel, is very important for like first aid care and like emergency care.
Yeah, I've done it with some, there's some younger, they're called cadets. We have a big charity in this country called St. John that kind of run a lot of event first aid. So they cover some of the big events, and they have a youth division that has cadets in it that are, I think, 12 to 18, I think their ages are. And they do a lot of assessments every year to kind of move up the levels. And I do it a lot for them when they have the assessments. So I'll go in and they'll get presented with this injury and they're like, oh my God. But it's much easier because they're quite young, some of them. And they know they've had the training, so they know what they're doing, but they enjoy it more because it's kind of fun then as well. So
yeah, yeah. Is that the St. John ambulance? Because we actually have that here in Canada too.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're at like all of the local events and stuff.
Yeah, same here. All of them, they try and do everything.
Yeah, they run the first aid courses too. Like I've had to take a couple of their first aid courses, and actually that's kind of why I mentioned like how the hands-on in that type of field, the hands-on is more important, because like I've taken so many CPR courses or like first aid courses and then like walked away and could not tell you how to wrap something, because like I did it once in the course and then like never did it again.
Yeah.
And it just was like, oh, here's how to do it, but like we're not going to practice this. So I'm like, I would be so unhelpful in an emergency.
Yeah, St. John's a first aid course is the one I did, that very first one when I was doing it at work. St. John ran that. And the guy that was running it was telling me about the volunteering he did. So eventually, when I decided, however many months later, I think this was probably in May, and then in the December, I joined myself and started doing the event stuff, which is how I got involved with the youth division as well. But yeah, I know what you mean. You do it once and you think, oh, I don't remember any of it.
Yeah. And you're like, get put on the spot later. And you're like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I think.
Yeah, I remember like thinking back now, when I did that first course, they made us do chest compressions as like a mini assessment at the end so we could then get signed off on it. And I remember like massively overthinking a chest compression, whereas now I just kind of do it and I don't even have to think about it. It's just like an autopilot thing.
Oh yeah, you've probably done that a million times by now.
I've done it a few times, yeah.
That helps.
It's a lot harder in real life. You have to really have some stamina.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard, like doing like the however many, see, I don't even remember how that even works, but
30.
Doing all the 30 compressions, like that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It hurts your arms, but I mean, I guess it's worth it because you're saving someone's life and all that. But
yeah, and in real life, you're not even thinking about feeling tired because your adrenaline takes over so much. And especially now, probably not so much a couple of years back, but now that I know so much more because I've learned it at university, my head's thinking about other things. So I'm thinking, right, next we need to do this, or we need to check this, or this needs to be given, or whatever. So I'm not even thinking about little things like that anymore. I'm thinking about the bigger things. So my body just does it. It's just like a muscle movement now, but it aches. You ache the next day so much.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like in that moment, you're like, you don't really care about how much it hurts until the next day.
Yeah, it's you don't think about it until a couple of hours later. I actually did it yesterday. So this morning when I woke up, my abs are really aching and the back of my shoulders are really aching. And yesterday my hands, like I just had really achy fingers. But it was like 4 hours later when I actually thought, oh, my hands are aching. But yeah, in the moment, you're not thinking about it at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have any kind of, like, I know you share a lot of advice on your social media and stuff for other paramedic students, as well as maybe other other students who are taking other type of healthcare programs. So do you have any kind of tips and advice you could share for students who might be listening, who maybe are in their first year as a paramedic or are thinking about that career path?
So first year, I'd say definitely ask questions. I feel like I didn't ask enough questions, I suppose. I mean, I was asking things when I was out on placement and with different healthcare professionals, but I'd always come home and think, oh, I wish I'd asked about that, or I wish I'd asked about this. And then I'd have to kind of research it myself, as if I'd have just asked someone, it would have been explained to me. So obviously we're there as students, they know we're there to learn. And there's no such thing as a silly question, really, because if you're asking something about the job and to help you learn, then that's going to help you develop. So I would say if you're thinking about something, even if it's like the name of a piece of equipment, just say to someone, oh, what's this called? And they'll just tell you, and then you'll probably remember that forever. You won't ever have to think, oh, what's this called again? Whereas I feel like I didn't do that in my first maybe 3 or 4 months. I was quite reserved. I'd ask bigger questions, but I felt silly if I would ask little things. So I was kind of getting to a point where I was like, I don't even know what that's called. So then I'd have to research it because I didn't want to ask people. So for first years, I'd say just if you've got a question, just ask it, because someone will tell you and it'll just make your life easier in the long term. But I suppose for new starters, if you're like going through application process, I'd say make sure that you really understand the role, because a lot of people think, especially with paramedics, I'm not sure how it works with other healthcare professionals, but people think you just do things like big car accidents and big resuscitation jobs every single day, but you don't. I mean, it's been months and I've only had one thing like that. It's a lot more things like mental health and caring for elderly people and that sort of stuff. And the universities really look for that when you go in for your interviews. They don't want you to just say, oh, I watched a cool program and I want to be a paramedic. They want you to really understand what you're getting yourself in for. So it is a lot of kind of community-based care, social care now, just because that's where the role's going. So I think if you're applying and you're about to go for an interview, I think if you have a real understanding of what that role that you're going into actually is, they'll see it and they'll understand that you know what you're talking about. So I think, yeah, do a bit of research. If you know people that are in the profession, talk to them, and just, yeah, know what you're letting yourself in for, basically.
Yeah, definitely with a field like that, like you have to know, I feel like you have to kind of know what you're in for. And a lot of like, and this is kind of, in the past, I've said the same thing about like nursing and stuff like that too. Like anything that involves immediate like care of someone in the health industry, I feel like you kind of have to understand that it's not going to be like that glamorous image that you see like in movies and on TV. Like it's not just going to be, oh, we're rushing to the scene of this major accident, we're going to save this person's life, and it's going to be this big like whole ordeal. It's much different when you actually do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, yes, same with nurses. A lot of people see like things like Grey's Anatomy and think that's what a nurse is going to be, but it's not. It's kind of caring for people and sitting there and listening to people talk. And I mean, a lot of patients we're seeing, especially at the moment, with like GPs being closed and that sort of stuff, people are getting almost to their wits' end and have nowhere else to go, so they'll call an ambulance. So we can't really do anything for them because we're emergency trained, but sometimes just listening to them and then trying to point them in the right direction is the biggest thing that helps them. So yeah, just not always thinking you're going to go into running into big car accidents or something like that, because I don't think I've ever seen that happen.
I have actually a couple of my close friends are nurses and a couple of them are paramedics, like here in Canada. And like sometimes they'll say some kind of story about whatever they did that day, and I'm just like, ew. Like you have to deal with that. Yeah,
definitely. Some of the most memorable ones are not the ones that you'd think. Like a lot of people are like, oh, how many people have you seen die? And you're like, I don't even know. But you can tell them an interesting story that they would think is probably quite boring, but to you it's probably the more interesting thing or the more memorable thing. But yeah, I think there's a real, with a lot of healthcare professionals, there's a real like the wrong attitude towards life saving. People think you're just going to save lives every day. But if I'm totally honest, I think I've been on the road for like a year and a half, and I would say I've probably only saved 2 lives, like actually saved them. Everything else has kind of been a care type thing. So I've done something that helped them, or I've got them to where they need to be, or pointed them in the right direction. But as far as actually I saved a life, I think probably only 2 or 3 out of hundreds of patients.
Yeah. And I think like that is something that to kind of like keep that in mind, because I mean, my friend, that's my one paramedic friend, like I remember it was like a couple years ago, and he's been a paramedic for maybe 8 years now. And I remember a couple years ago, I guess he delivered a baby on the side of the road or something like that, or he delivered a baby, and he was like really, really excited about it. And we were like, don't you do that stuff like that all the time? He's like, no, like this was a huge deal. And he was so excited about it. We're like, oh, okay.
Childbirth is really rare actually. And I think a lot of healthcare professionals that I've spoken to about childbirth, because I would love to do something like that. A lot of people that I've spoken to have been like, oh no, I can't stand maternity jobs. And I'm like, really? And they always say, no, they're so messy, so much is going on. You have one patient and then suddenly you have 2 and all this sort of stuff. And I think especially for paramedics, normally when you arrive on a scene, something has already happened and you're there to fix it. Whereas with childbirth, it's happening and it's all on you. So yeah, they're big jobs, but no, thankfully they don't happen a lot. People usually get to a maternity ward just in time, or obviously they're at home. So it's quite a rare job, but yeah, it's very exciting when babies are born.
Yeah, that must be kind of like, I mean, I know obviously you don't want that to happen because it's not, it means there's an emergency, but I'm sure it's kind of one of those like, ooh, like if it does happen, it's always like a highlight for you guys, not for the patient.
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot of paramedics that have done it maybe only once or twice in their whole career, but I think it's the same as the parents. Once it's all over and the baby is here, everyone just chills out and it's a much nicer environment. I do know one paramedic that delivered a baby and said to mum, oh, I think you should name baby after me. And they actually did. So
really?
The little girl has got the same name as the paramedic, which I think is adorable. And if I ever deliver a baby, I hope someone calls it Beth.
That is so sweet that they did that.
Yeah, that's probably one of the highlights of her career. So she's done 2 or 3 childbirths, but she'll always remember that, which is lovely.
Yeah, definitely. So you published a book, or not really a book, more like a pamphlet on interview, like university interviews.
Yeah.
Right. What kind of made you, like, was it something that you kind of just did because a lot of people were kind of asking you for tips and stuff, so you just kind of put that together? It's like a guide, right?
Yeah, so it kind of came about because a lot of people were messaging me and asking questions about interviews and asking for advice on the interviews, and I kind of was just saying the same thing every time. To be honest, my whole Instagram that I started I kind of started it to help people that are going through it and give them the support that I kind of didn't get. I was the first person in my family to go into a role like this. I was the first person in my family to go to university. So I kind of was, I wouldn't say at a disadvantage, but I didn't really have much help in that sense because no one knew what was going on. So I spent hours and hours and hours researching before my university interviews, finding out what they would ask me and the sort of things that I needed to say. And I kept it all in a folder. Like I had a really thick folder that I'd take with me because I always stayed in a hotel the night before because some of the universities were quite a distance away. And I'd read through it all. So it was all in my head. So when I got there, I knew the right things to say so that I'd get offered a place. And I still had it. I found it not that long ago. So I was kind of flicking through it and I did a video on it so people could see the sort of things I researched. And so many people messaged me like, can I buy this off you? And I was like, really? Why do you want to buy this? So I sat down and I found a USB stick with the documents on, and I went through it all and kind of compressed it into a guide. Obviously, I had a lot of stuff that was specific to the universities I was applying for, which wasn't relevant to everyone.
Right.
So I took all that out and I just kind of kept things like the key qualities of paramedics, paramedic skills, some practice questions that I'd found. I kind of did a brief description of like the role of a paramedic, so the sort of thing that I know the universities look for. Put that all in a document. I think it's about 10 pages, and I've had quite a few people that have really loved it and have said thank you so much. I had a few people that are a bit like, is this really going to help me? And I was like, well, it helped me, so it might help you, but it's not so much telling them what to say, it's telling them how, it's teaching them how to prepare for it and what to research before, just so that they can answer the questions confidently, really. I think I've got a copy next to me here. Yeah, so I just basically put things in there like reading over your personal statement. So we do all of our university applications through UCAS. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah, we have a similar thing in Canada. It's like, I forget what it's called. It's been a while since I used it. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so the universities all put out their courses on UCAS, and you apply through them and you upload a personal statement, which is I think it's 4,000 characters or something like that. It's been quite a while since I did mine. And quite often they will pull up on that in your interview. Now, obviously, most people know what's in it. I think there's a real small number of cases where people aren't that truthful in their personal statement, and that's how they get caught up. So I've just put in there things like, read your personal statement, know what's in there, because then if they say to you, tell me about this, then you can answer confidently. I had it at one of my interviews. He asked me about an experience I had abroad and said, can you just tell me a bit more about it? And I literally said to him, how long have we got? Because I had to talk about this for 5 hours. And he was like, oh, we've only got 10 minutes. But I was really confident in that answer, and he could see that I was really passionate about it. So that's the sort of thing they're looking for. If you've put something in their personal statement, they've obviously been attracted to you based on that application. So just go through it and talk about it as much as you can in your interview. So I put that in there. I put in there about researching the university, because although we're paramedic students or nursing students or something like that, we are also university students, and they want the best students. And I think I read somewhere before my interview that they want like an all-rounder student, not just someone that is going to do the bare minimum. So I would look at things like the course specifics, so how many placement hours they offer me, the local ambulance service that I'd work with, employment rates at the end of the course. I would look at like the extra modules you'd get. So although we do ambulance placements, we also do hospital placements. So we get to do things like A&E or the emergency room. We get to do, what else have I done? A pediatrics one. In next year, I'll get to do a maternity one, that sort of thing. So they're all different. Different universities offer different things. So I was kind of looking at what that specific university would offer me. And then when they say to me, oh, why this uni, or what attracted you to our course or something like that, I had quite a solid answer to give them, and they knew that I'd done my research. Also looking at things like what societies they've got. So I think one of the universities I went to, I'd looked at the societies that they have there, and one of them was a British Sign Language one. And I said, oh, I'm quite interested in that. And he was like, oh, really? How did you find out about that? And I said, oh, I was looking on your website and I saw that you have a sign language society. And he was like, oh, that's really interesting. So he was engaging with me because he could tell I'd done my research. So I put in things like that into my guide just so that people can really prepare themselves. I mean, they might not use all of it, but at least they can go in a bit more confident. Yeah, because I felt before I was going into it, I felt like I was really lost, and I was going into this massive thing and I had no idea what to say, but I would go through all of this information and it was all in my head. So I think I was quite confident, and all of the universities I went to offered me a place. So I obviously did something right.
Exactly. I think that's actually kind of something that when students are, I think that when people are going, and it's kind of similar for job interviews too, but I think that a lot of the times people kind of get caught up in trying to memorize their answers to questions. So they'll like, okay, here's what I'm going to say for this. Here's what I'm going to say for this. And I feel like everyone kind of focuses on that type of preparation instead of the being mentally prepared approach. And I think that's a big factor when people, like if you leave an interview and you don't feel like it went very well, but you're like, but I had all these answers. And I feel like it's because of that, there does need to be that level of mental preparation for any type of interview.
Yeah, and I think as well, we all forget because obviously the university interviews are a massive thing for us, but they are probably seeing 400 applicants. So unless you're kind of standing out, they would probably forget about you. And obviously that's not what you want when you're trying to get a place. So my attitude towards it was just like overly prepare for it, but not prepare for it in a way that I was going to forget, like you say. Really kind of take it all in and know what I was going in there for, and hope that they engage with that, and they definitely did. So I mean, I've also put things in there like what to take with you, because so many people ask me, what do I take on my interview? And I was just kind of listing all these different things. I mean, it's only things like a bottle of water and a snack and a pen and that sort of stuff, but if you're that under pressure, you'll forget to take a pen. So
Yeah. And like, you should always, I personally, I'm one of those people that thinks that everybody should always have a pen in their purse or wherever you go.
Yeah, I've always got loads on me.
Yeah, like I have one I have like a couple different purses, and I have them in there. I have one in my car. I have one in like my work. They're everywhere. Because
Yeah,
you never know when you need a pen.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I know what you mean. There's been even a few times myself where I've been preparing for an interview, and I've sat there and been like, what can I bring? Like, is it okay if I bring a bottle of water? Like, what am I allowed to, like, should I bring my purse? And I just like overthink all these things.
Yeah.
And like, you never know really.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of universities are quite good. They send you like a list of the things you need to bring. So like copy of your ID, certificates from school and that sort of stuff. So obviously everyone thinks, oh, I really need to take this certificate, but they'll quite often forget about little things like pens and a bottle of water. And quite often if you're sat outside an interview room for 20 minutes, you probably need a drink because you're probably panicking a little bit. So yeah, I've put all of that sort of stuff in there, as well as things like just how to make a good impression, just kind of more basic stuff. But yeah, I just felt like a lot of people would be Googling practice questions and then learning the answers to the practice question was actually, if they then threw something different at you in the interview, you'd be really stuck. Whereas if you've done your research and you know what you're going into, it doesn't really matter what they throw at you because you can answer it confidently.
Yeah, and you're kind of ready for it, and you're just in a more calm, like you're not getting overwhelmed with that anxiety of just being put on the spot.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the water bottle thing too. I read somewhere that it was like a little trick I read where if you have water and if you kind of get into a little bit where you're put on the spot or you're not entirely sure what to say, just stop and like take a sip of water to calm yourself.
Yeah, and you can be totally honest about things like that as well. I mean, they know that you're just a person. They're not going to expect you to be some kind of robot. You could just say, oh, I'm really nervous, my mouth's really dry, can I just have a drink of water? And they're not going to be like, no. They're going to be like, yeah, of course, have a drink. Yeah, so I've just kind of included things like that. I just wanted to give people the stuff that I felt like I needed when I was doing it. Because I didn't come from like an academic background or anything like that. It was so new to me. I was throwing myself I was really outside my comfort zone. And obviously I know how terrifying it is. And I just wanted people to feel a bit more supported. So that's kind of my thinking behind the guide.
Yeah, I think that's a really helpful. I mean, you obviously put a lot of effort into that, and whether you intentionally did the effort for other people or yourself, I think that's still like it's very worthwhile that you put that much effort into it. And now you can actually, all of that effort can keep, it helped you obviously, but now you can just keep doing that and keep sharing it over and over again after you put in all that effort, and now other people all get to benefit from it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, it was all for me. It was, this is a compressed version of what I did for myself. And I think I left all 5 interviews feeling pretty good about it. I think by the 4th one, I was a bit like, yeah, I've done this loads of times. It's just another one. And I think that's because I'd prepared so well. So it's basically just, this is what you need to do in order to feel confident when you get there. So I'm hoping, well, so far I've heard a lot of feedback. And a lot of people have done quite well at interviews and have thanked me for it. And people have said how great it is. So I'm glad it's helping people.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it is. And I mean, it sounds like it sounds like a more kind of multi-dimensional approach. So instead of just, the quick, here's what to say, here's how to prepare. And I think, again, like I said, I think that is just as important.
Yeah, I think it's just, even if you were to stumble on the question, if you were to talk about something very similar that is also relevant, they can see that you've done your preparation. They don't want someone that's just turned up on the day thinking, oh, I hope I get it. They can see that you're really passionate about it and you're really engaged and you want it, and that's what they want for their students. So
yeah, that makes total sense. Obviously in that with a science or a health-based program, especially with something so important like being like the paramedic program, I'm assuming that is a lot of work and a lot of time you have to spend. How much time do you spend studying typically?
So our university runs on a kind of program that works every week. So most universities that do courses like this have block placements and block university. So they'll do 8 weeks at uni and do all the academic stuff, and then they'll do 8 weeks placement, and they'll carry on like that. Whereas we run placement and university at the same time. So I do roughly 24 hours a week on placement. So that's 2 shifts normally. That are totally random. Sometimes they're days, sometimes they're nights, sometimes they're half and half. And then normally 1 day at university at least. Obviously at the moment that's mostly online, but we're doing a lot of skills stuff as well. So we're kind of, sometimes we're there, sometimes we're at home. So I do at least a day of uni a week, sometimes 3 or 4. And I suppose self-studying, I don't do as much as I probably should. I'd say at least 6 hours a week, sometimes quite a bit more. So if I've got an exam coming up, I'll probably be sat at my desk every day. But on a normal week, I kind of do, I'd say about 6 to 8 hours at home on my own, just sat there going through things or learning things or something like that. So it's probably not as much as I should be doing, but I feel like I'm doing all right, so I'm going to carry on.
It sounds like it's still a lot of studying. Like I don't remember myself studying that much. I obviously didn't take a heavy science-based or healthcare-based program, but it does sound like a lot of time and effort you spent studying. Did you end up having kind of like a routine or like a study, like a study routine that you kind of developed to help yourself just stay focused and not want to go crazy from all of that studying?
Well, I definitely didn't study this much last year. This year has been a massive step up, so I'm definitely doing more now. But I also think partly because I'm interested in it more this year, it's more skills based, so I'm kind of learning the theory behind the skills. I wouldn't say I had a plan as such. I'm kind of one of those people that does it when I feel like it, almost. If I wake up in the morning and say to myself, right, I'm going to study all day today, normally I'm not in the right mindset for it, so I kind of don't really learn anything, and then I've wasted like 8 hours sat at a computer and I've not actually taken anything in. Whereas now I'm kind of working on a basis if I'm interested in something and I want to know about it, then I'll go and do it. So despite what I've got planned that day, I'll just go and research something. It might be 20 minutes and then I'll come back the next day and do a couple of hours. So I'm kind of more trying not to stress myself out. I don't want to be trying to stick to this strict routine of you have to study this much and on this day, because I think it's a waste of time for me then, because my brain just doesn't like that. But yeah, so like I'll go out on placement and I'll see a couple of things that I think, oh, that's really interesting. And then when I get home the next day, I'll go and sit and I'll read about them, or I'll do a bit of work about them or something like that. And quite often after a lecture, so we'll do an online lecture, it usually finishes sort of lunchtime, I'll pick up on something that I'm really interested in, and then I'll go and read about that. And I think it just helps with the coping, because obviously there's so much work. I don't want to get to a point where I'm resenting it a little bit, because I'm quite enjoying it at the moment. So I'm just kind of taking it at my own pace. That being said, I had an exam a couple of weeks ago, and I hardly left my desk for about 2 weeks. I was like sitting up all night. I think one night I went to bed at about 3 a.m. and that's only because I had to be up in the morning. I was getting out of bed and I was immediately going and sitting at my desk in my pajamas. I was listening to podcasts that were the same sort of thing as what my exam was, in the car, in the shower. Like I did not stop because I was obsessing over it. But that was only 2 weeks, and I did the exam, and now I've chilled out a bit after. So I suppose I think everyone's like that. They get before an exam, they just start stressing and thinking, I don't know anything, but I did know it. I was just getting stressed.
Yeah, I think everyone kind of goes through every once in a while. You get that one, maybe it's that one exam that's like, it's worth like half your grade, or there's another, maybe you need to get a certain mark on that exam because of whatever reason. And people just like really stress themselves out and really just put themselves like, and I'm not saying like it's a bad thing, because it's just a natural thing, but I think when you're really, really stressed out, like that's all that you can think about is just, okay, I need to do this. Did I do enough? Did I study enough?
Yeah, no, that's how I was. I mean, it wasn't just me. I know all of my friends at university were the same. It was probably the biggest exam of the year, if not of the course. And to kind of put it into perspective, it was a patient assessment exam, but it's very, very similar to the exam that the medical students do. And obviously they're going to be doctors. We're not going to be doctors, but we were doing this exam that's very similar. And the pressure came from, we had to learn these 5 different systems of the body. We had to know them all and know the background of it all, but we actually didn't know which one we would be tested on. So we would turn up to the exam room and literally roll a dice, and whatever number we got is what we had to do. So we were learning 5 things, but we only needed 1. So I think that was why we were stressing ourselves out so much, because we had such a huge amount of stuff to learn, but actually we didn't need to know all of it because we weren't going to need it all for the exam. But I mean, it's definitely paid off. Now I'm like coming up to 3 weeks, I think, since I've done it, and I definitely remember most of it. I feel a lot more confident since I've done that, and I feel like I sound like I know what I'm talking about more now.
Yeah.
A couple of occasions where I've been in hospital giving a handover, and I've said things, and I kind of come out of it and think, who was that just said that? I was like, wow, I sound so smart.
I've done that too. Like there's been a few times where I've been just had a conversation with someone, and I kind of walk away and I'm like, wow, I sounded really smart when I was talking just now.
That's literally how I've been. I mean, it definitely happened. I did a shift a couple of days after the exam, and I think if I hadn't done that exam, I wouldn't have been as confident as I was at this job. And got to the hospital, and I kind of turned around, and the paramedic that I was working with, had just left. He'd just gone outside because he was like, oh, you had it. And I was like, did I?
You got this.
Yeah. And I just thought, for the whole day, I was thinking, wow, I actually know what I'm talking about now.
It's going to make you feel good, though.
Yeah, I got home and I was in a really good mood, because I was just thinking, I just understood things a lot more. I'd stopped stressing and actually realised that I did know near enough all of it still. But that pressure had gone. So I was just kind of enjoying being smarter than I was a couple of weeks before.
Right. Yeah. It's like almost like that preparation, being prepared, and just I'm trying to figure out the word I was looking for, but just kind of that being prepared is a really good way to kind of defeat that like imposter syndrome. Like I've talked to a lot of students who have kind of brought that up and been like, I really struggled with imposter syndrome. And I feel like that's one of those keys to helping yourself kind of overcome that, is just take more time to study, like slow yourself down a bit and just kind of do anything you can to absorb that material more. And the more you do that, the more you feel that you're confident enough to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember my very first shift on an ambulance. I went into a patient's home, and I remember his wife saying, oh, don't worry, the paramedics are here. And I walked in and I thought, I literally know nothing. Like, what am I doing? Whereas now I'll happily walk in and I can just do things on my own now, which is kind of mad when I think how I was it was about a year ago probably. I was so scared and feeling like such a fraud because people are asking me questions, and I was like, I don't know. Whereas now, quite often, I can answer things confidently. And even if I'm not 100%, I can usually convince them that I'm 100%. And then I've always got the paramedic to fall back on, or they'll put something into the conversation as well. But yeah, I kind of sometimes think, oh, why was I stressing so much before that exam? Because I obviously know it, because I still know it now. And I've not read that material since the day before the exam. But yeah, the stress of things like that really get on top of you. But now I can just enjoy knowing that stuff and being able to put that into practice, which is much better than the stress.
Yeah. And sorry. And speaking of that kind of stress, I mean, I know that type of job, and even just knowing this from my friends that are paramedics, just it is a very stressful position because you have a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of stuff you have to know, like you have to know how to properly care for different types of things or treat different things, but also like you have a lot of responsibility just knowing that people are relying on you, not even just like to save their life in those dramatic situations, but even like they're relying on you to help them feel better. And so that can be really stressful. Or even if you have like, maybe you have like a rough shift and something doesn't go as planned, or something just doesn't, like you just did everything you could and like something just didn't work. And so how do you kind of keep yourself balanced so that you don't get into that place where you're just overwhelmed with all of that stress?
So I think, especially with the studying side of it, like I said, I don't put any pressure on myself to study. I just do it when I feel like I'm doing it. I think that helps with the university side of it, but mostly I'd say just kind of removing yourself from that situation and just doing what you want to do will just help you kind of recover from it. So quite often I've had not a bad day, I suppose. It's more of just a stressful, busy day. And I've come back and I felt exhausted. And then the next day I've been off and I've just thought, actually, do you know what? I am just going to sit in front of the telly today and binge watch a series or go shopping. Obviously, that's not possible at the moment because it's closed. Or go for a walk or something like that. So I think, to be honest, the worst thing that we experience as students and probably as paramedics as well is more guilt. So if you are having a bad day and you do think, oh, I just want to sit in front of the telly today, it's then the guilt of you not doing what you should be doing. So not reading that book or not doing that piece of work that makes you feel worse than anything. So I think just kind of accepting that sometimes you do just need a break. So if you do wake up and genuinely think to yourself, I really can't do this today, or I really don't want to do that bit of work today, as long as obviously you're not just about to hit a deadline, it's okay to just sit and watch TV or go for a run or go shopping or go and see your family. There's nothing wrong with doing that if that's what you need. So I think, yeah, especially for student paramedics, student nurses as well, if you wake up one morning and think you need a break, have one. Don't beat yourself up because you're thinking, oh, I really need to do some work. Just have that time off, because actually it's going to benefit you more later on when you come back to doing that work. You're going to be more refreshed and you're going to feel better about it. If you're stressed and you really don't want to do something, especially studying, you're not going to retain anything. You're going to waste your own time. So yeah, just being able to unwind. However you do unwind. I mean, for me, it's normally staying in bed or staying in my pajamas and watching TV or going for a walk in the woods or something. I just forget about everything for a little while and then you feel more refreshed after. So yeah, just removing yourself from that situation and doing something that you enjoy will help you recover from it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point about a lot of people kind of like, it is really important to do like those kind of day, like, you know, if you need to have a day where you just do nothing all day, then you need to do it. And that helps you kind of reset. But I think that's a really good point about feeling guilty about doing that. Because even too, sometimes like I'll catch myself, like, I'm going to give myself, you know, today's going to just be a do nothing, sit on the couch day. But then I'll get like 5 hours or not even 5 hours, maybe like a couple hours in. And I'm like, shouldn't I feel like I'm wasting my entire day. Like, shouldn't I be doing something a little more important? And it just like, then I get so conflicted. And like, I feel like that is kind of interrupts the whole point of giving yourself that day off.
Yeah, and that guilt is the biggest problem, I think. Just thinking, oh, I've got so much stuff that I should be doing, but I'm not doing it. I'm wasting my time. But I think we all need it. We all need to waste a bit of our own time, because otherwise you're just going to become overwhelmed. I mean, after I did that exam a couple of weeks ago, I'd spent all of my Christmas holidays really revising. And then obviously once I came back after Christmas, I was solidly revising. So then my exam was a Friday afternoon. I then took the whole weekend. I thought, I'm not even going to think about the fact that I want to be a paramedic for at least 2 days. I had a new module coming up on the Monday that was about to start, and I just didn't want to do anything. I wasn't going to prepare for it. I just thought, right, have the weekend off. And I spent the whole weekend in the garden I'd had some new pets, so I was building them a new little house to live in, and I was just outside all weekend. I mean, it's freezing cold, but I just didn't even think about it. And then when I came back Monday morning for the new lecture, I just felt quite refreshed, although I hadn't prepared. So there was that tiny bit of guilt in the back of my head. I thought, no, do you know what? I feel a lot better. I've had a really stressful couple of weeks, and now I just feel more relaxed and ready to start something new. And I think, to be honest, that was the best thing for me. Although someone might have said, oh, why not doing any uni work? You're a uni student. Actually, I needed that time because I'd had such an intense couple of weeks, and I felt better for it.
Yeah, and I think that is just as important, to get yourself in that right zone and refresh yourself so that you can just go into that exam cool, calm, and collected. And that's honestly, in my opinion, that's almost, if not equally as important as preparing the material itself. Like, obviously I know the material is what's on the actual exam, but your mindset is like a make or break kind of thing for that.
Yeah, I think if I'd have sat all weekend reading books and preparing myself, I would have been in a worse position than I was because I had some time off, because I was just, my mind was cleared and I was able to take in what I was being taught rather than overthinking, oh, I wish I'd have read about this, or I wish I'd have done that. I was just able to chill, and I enjoyed it a bit more. I think I was really engaging in what we were being taught because my mind was clear. I was just enjoying it. And then afterwards I was thinking, oh, I really want to read up on this. So then it kind of started the whole study thing again, and I was still interested in it. Whereas I think if I'd have not had that time to myself, I'd have been getting to the point where I was resenting uni because I was like, oh, I'm so stressed, I've got so much to do, I don't want to do any of it, I just want to chill. But because I'd done that, I'd made myself had some time off and see my partner, because I hadn't seen him for a good couple of weeks because I've been sat at my desk in another room. I just felt better for it. And I think people just need to realize that you're not a bad person because you need some time off. Everyone needs a break. Whether you only need an hour or you need 10 hours, you do you, and actually you'll be better for it in the long term.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think it's so important to do that, and just to do, like, if that's the thing that's going to help you do that kind of reset, because everyone does need to do that kind of clear your mind for a bit and do, like, I said reset, but I think I meant to say like a refresh. Yeah, just so you're more focused, and yeah, like, you may end up liking or being more interested in what you're learning than if you didn't, because you're just clear.
Yeah, I think for me it makes me a better student because I take that time to just chill out. I don't overwhelm myself with it, and like I say, I stay interested in it. I don't want to ever get to a point where I really don't want to be a paramedic anymore because I can't deal with the workload, I suppose. So I kind of take time out and then I come back to it and I'm still enjoying it. And I think that's quite important. I don't ever want to overwhelm myself too much.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any other kind of like struggles or challenges that you kind of had to overcome as a student? Or were those kind of like, I know we covered a bit of that, but
I think, yeah, the work-life balance, definitely one of them. So like we said, knowing when to take some time out. I think keeping on top of things has been probably the biggest challenge. Now, I've obviously done education for most of my life, but it's a big step up university. And rather than being taught things in a classroom 5 days a week, you're now being told to go away and almost teach yourself and then come back and learn something and then teach yourself a bit further. So I think just trying to cope with that workload has been a struggle. I mean, some people that are really academic thrive on things like that. They love all of that pressure. But for some of us that are not as academic, suddenly being given all this higher education stuff to take in is like, whoa, this is massively out of my comfort zone. So I think just keeping yourself quite organized and knowing what you need to do, but not putting too much on yourself. Planning your time quite well is a massive thing, and just keeping on top of it all, like writing essays, not leaving them until the last 2 weeks. If you get given 5 months, do it in the first month, because then in 4 months time you'll think, oh wait, I've already done that. Or you can come back to it and reread it and you can change it if you want to, or make it better or whatever. It just using your time well and not putting extra pressure on yourself, I suppose, because there is a lot of work and there is a lot of things to learn. So keeping on top of it is probably the best thing you can do to help yourself.
Yeah, like that is probably one of the biggest things I hear from a lot of people is that whole, just the transition to university where all of a sudden you have to do everything for yourself and you're your own advocate. Whereas in high school and this, like any level of school before that, everyone kind of is there to kind of like push you along and guide you along. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you're like, well, now and for a lot of people, I'm in a new city. I'm in, and not everyone, but typically a lot of people go to a different city. So it's now you're on your own in a new city, in a new place, and the workload just basically quadrupled. And now you have to be on top of that yourself.
Yeah, and not only the workload getting more, it's also a higher level than you've ever done before. Like I've done a couple of level 3 qualifications, which are kind of the college sort of level, and then university is a massive step up. So I knew it was going to be harder, but I don't think I quite anticipated how much harder. And even the difference between my first year and now I'm obviously in my second year, even that was such a huge jump. So yeah, I mean, I can't imagine being 18 years old and being in a new city with people I don't know or anything like that. That would just be so hard. So yeah, just trying to keep on top of it and plan your time well, just because it stops that unnecessary stress, which we all get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like even just little things like for example, starting that essay earlier than 2 weeks before the deadline, even just something as simple as that can make you feel so much less stressed. And just, I think it goes back to some of that preparation too. Just, you know what, like I started this early, now I'm done early and I'm not rushing, and you just don't have that same, like you're pushing the deadlines to the last minute, writing the paper at 11:59 p.m. the night before kind of thing.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I haven't done the essay for a couple of weeks now. I think, to be honest, the last one went in like October, just gone. But I had finished it and it was all done and I was perfectly happy with it. Nearly 2 weeks before I actually needed to hand it in. So I uploaded it onto the system, and a couple of weeks later when the deadline came around, I'd kind of forgotten about it because I'd already handed it in. And I remember looking at the group chat that we've got for our cohort and people were stressing and they were worrying about being able to upload it and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, I've done all that. I'm cool. I could just enjoy myself.
Yep. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
We had one last year. The deadline was actually my birthday. And I was thinking, I do not want to be stressing about an essay on my birthday. So I did it as early as I possibly could so that I didn't have to think about it on my birthday. So when it came around again, people were stressing about uploading it and all this sort of stuff. Whereas I was enjoying my birthday because I'd uploaded it 2 weeks before.
Yeah. And like, that's, you know what, you were proactive and you took care of that. And then you got to have a birthday where you didn't have to worry about your schoolwork. So, I mean, that pays off.
Yeah. I mean, I was more thinking I want to go out for lunch and I wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. I didn't want to think about an essay. So I was getting it done just because I wanted to go out and have a nice lunch.
Yeah. I mean, but if that's what's motivating you, then that's all the power to you.
Yeah. I mean, some things as well can clash. You can have a couple of deadlines that are really close together. And I think just trying to separate them all out and get them all done would just help, because otherwise that week or 2 weeks when you've got all these things due are going to be really stressful. So yeah, and get them out of the way, because once they're done you don't really have to think about them again. That's kind of the attitude I have. Just do it and then it's done.
Yeah, get it over with and you don't have to worry about thinking about it.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you what some of the essays are right now because I've just forgotten them.
I mean, yeah, that happens too. Kind of on the flip side of that, what is one of your favorite memories so far in school?
I think it's probably just the people I've met. Like there's a couple of us that are really good friends. There's about 8 of us. I knew 2 of them before I started, but the others I met at university, and we just get on so well. And we're kind of, because we're all in it together, we're a really good support system, and we don't get to see each other a lot at the moment because university is closed for lectures. We only go in for skills days, which are really small groups. So I suppose just being able to go to university and sit and have lunch with all these people that understand what you're going through, and we just get on so well. I mean, like at Christmas we did a Zoom call and all of us were on there opening our presents because we'd done like a secret Santa for each other, and we all had presents to open, and it's just so nice. You meet some really amazing people. I mean, same with patients. I've met some really incredible patients. So I suppose just, the people you meet are amazing.
I think that's the funny thing about kind of asking that question right now, like right in this time right now, asking, like, I find that I've asked like people the same thing, like, what's one of your favorite memories? And a lot of people are just like, well, just hanging out with my friends, because like obviously we haven't really been able to do that for a while. So a lot of people are just like, just my friends. Like,
honestly, we miss each other so much. We're in communication all the time. Like, we text each other every single day, and quite a few of us work at the same ambulance station, so we see each other on shifts, only ever for a couple of minutes, but we see each other. So when we're allowed to finally get together and just sit at university and have lunch together and just chat, it's just going to be so nice, and we're all really looking forward to it. To have a support system like that, to then suddenly not have one that you can see whenever you want to, even for things like, we have practical assessments all the time. We used to get together and practice with each other. We can't do that now because we're not allowed. And we miss that. All of us miss that, I think. So I can't wait for us all to get together again.
Yeah, definitely. I think that a lot of people are kind of feeling that right now too. And like, even just like, I mean, I can't wait to see my friends, and it's what happens. So another kind of question that we often ask people, because we get kind of really interesting answers from it, is, if you could go back and talk to your 15-year-old self, what would you say, or what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Oh God, 15 years old, I just wanted to paint people's nails. I would probably say to myself, like, don't beat yourself up over things. I wouldn't say I was shy at school, but I was quite reserved, I suppose. And if I did something wrong, any kind of criticism, I would really take to heart, and I would really kind of beat myself up over it. And I would kind of go home and I'd get into bed at night and think, oh, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd done that. And it'd play on my mind all the time. Whereas now, if someone says, oh, if I was you, I'd have done it this way or whatever, I'd take that on and I'd learn from it. Whereas my 15-year-old self wouldn't have done. I'd have just thought, oh my God, you failed and you're rubbish, or all this sort of stuff. So I suppose if I was to talk to myself at that age, I'd just say, just learn from things. Don't sort of retain things and beat yourself up over them. Just use them as a guide and learn from them. And just don't be so hard on yourself, basically. I was always thinking that I wasn't good enough for this or that, was actually I was absolutely fine. And I tried my best at most things, which is good enough. I've done what I could have done. So I suppose not beating myself up over things.
Yeah, I think that's, at that age, I think that's important, because like I think that people at that age, when you're 15 or 16 even, you feel a lot of pressure kind of for no reason. Like, you feel like, because you have to make these decisions, like you have to decide if you want to go to university, you have to decide what you want to do. And it feels, at that age, that feels like so much pressure and just so much stress. And it's like, it's not that much pressure in the grand scheme of things, but you don't realize that until later.
Yeah. I mean, I remember feeling a little bit guilty, because a lot of my friends that I was at my high school with were planning on going to university, and that was their goal. I didn't want to go to university. I mean, I was 22 when I started university, and I would quite often think, oh, maybe I should, because I was obviously going to college to do my beauty therapy stuff and my makeup stuff, and I would sometimes think, oh, maybe I should just do it because everyone else is doing it. And it was almost not so much my family and my friends, but what the school expected you to do. Like, they all expected you to go on to bigger and better things. And I would sometimes feel guilty about the fact that I was choosing to do something that I enjoyed rather than something that was more intelligent, I suppose. But actually, I really enjoyed all of the beauty therapy stuff, and I was really good at it. And because I was good at it, I really thrived on it, and I would do better because I enjoyed it so much. And I've always got those skills now. No matter what happens in my life, I will always have those qualifications. And even if one day I wake up and decide I don't want to be a paramedic anymore, I've got a whole other industry that I can go into because I'm qualified for it. So it wasn't a waste of time. I wasn't doing anything wrong by choosing to do that. I didn't know where I was going, and I did something that I enjoyed, and I absolutely loved it. It was probably one of the best things I've done because it wasn't as stressful as this, but I was good at it, so I was doing quite well. And yeah, now I've got those makeup skills which are helping me now. Yeah, so I just shouldn't have felt so guilty about other people going to university. I should have just gone with my heart and thought, actually, no, I'm going to do this because I want to do it, and stop trying to explain myself to people because I didn't need to. That was what I chose to do.
Honestly, I don't think that any type of education, I never think is a waste of time, even if it's a program you take that you're maybe never even going to apply to anything. I don't think any of that is ever a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, now if I'd have gone to university when I was 18, I don't know what I'd have done, but I certainly probably wouldn't be working in it now. I would have gone back and done this. So I think in a way as well, everything I've done since I left school has all kind of been a pathway to this. I think everything was always leading to this. And obviously now everything I've done has helped me, and all the experience I've got is probably the reason that I did quite well getting into universities, because wasn't very much, but I had some life experience. And it's better for me now because I've done things like that. And like I say, I've always got something to fall back on. If I ever do have a really bad day and I don't want to do it anymore, I can take some time out, and I'm qualified to do something. So
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. What's that? Sorry?
Absolutely loved it as well. It's so much fun.
Well, that's the thing too, is like when you're taking stuff that you are interested in and you find is fun, it's not even going to really feel like it's too much work.
Yeah. I mean, I never planned on getting to 20, 21, 22 and then thinking, oh, I'm going to go to university now. That was never, ever in my plan. But I don't think I'd have been as confident. And I think as well, I wouldn't have understood some of the things I've done now if I hadn't done that, because especially the level 3 beauty was really science-based. It was really it's to do with things like skin and bones and muscles. And when it came to that in my first year of university, that wasn't so alien to me because I'd done that all before, and I really enjoyed it and I found it really interesting. So everything I've done has helped me now. So yeah, I don't regret it. But I remember just feeling guilty a couple of times when I was leaving school when people were saying, do you really want to do that? And I shouldn't have done. I should have just said to them, no, I'm going because I'm doing it.
Yeah, so just like own it and just be, I'm here.
Confident, yeah.
Definitely. So just have like 2 more questions. One is this is another kind of fun one that we ask everyone, and that is, what is your favorite social media platform and why?
Definitely Instagram. I'm the sort of person that takes photos of like literally everything. So if I'm doing something, I'm normally taking pictures of it. So even if I'm like out for a walk in the woods, I usually come home with like 200 pictures on my phone. So I like it because you can just kind of share it with people. Yeah. And you meet a lot of people on Instagram. I've met so many people since I started my account back in May. They're all doing the same sort of job as me, but they live all over the country, and we just kind of network on it. And I think it's great because I'd have never done that if it wasn't for Instagram. So I think it's probably the best one. It's the one I use the most anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely the most common answer. It's just the most versatile and I think most used as well. Yeah. Do you want to drop your handle here and we can link it so that our audience can follow you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at studentpara_B. So student and then para PARA, can't spell, and then the underscore and just a B. And that's where I kind of document my like university, my placement, my studying. People message me tips and I kind of share them. And obviously the guide is on there and that sort of stuff as well. So it's kind of a platform for not just healthcare students, I have loads of followers that are not anything to do with it, and they just are interested, and they would never be able to do it themselves for whatever reason, and they just like watching what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it like a lot of it is just from what I've seen too, like a lot of it is kind of just advice that would help anybody, any kind of student.
Yeah, anyone that's trying to get into university that feels a little bit like they're out of their depth, I think there's probably something on there that would help them. I kind of, the whole thing I use it for is just to give people what I didn't have when I was applying, because obviously I didn't have any family members that had done it or were in the role. I was kind of on my own almost. They would support me as much as they could, but they couldn't support me entirely because they didn't know themselves. So now I'm using what I've done to help the next couple of cohorts, I suppose. So yeah, giving people what I didn't have when I was in their position.
Right. Yeah. And that's definitely a pretty amazing thing. And I'm sure a lot of people really appreciate all the information and help that you share too.
Yeah, I've had some really lovely messages, and a lot of people always thank me because whatever I've said or told them has helped them in whatever way, and that makes me feel good as well. I always get nice feelings from the nice messages. So
yeah, it's always like rewarding and fulfilling to do that, for sure.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
knowing you're helping someone.
And
Definitely.
it's helped my confidence as well. Like people asking me things and me giving an answer which helps them just makes me feel a bit more confident, which is quite nice.
Yeah, always a good confidence boost, and just kind of like, people, I'm the expert here, and like just knowing that is can be a huge confidence booster for sure.
Yeah, it's great for reflection as well. Like when I think about like my university interviews, for example, that was so long ago now. Like that must have been sort of the end of 2018, 2019, something like that. And I think, oh my God, where's this time gone? And people ask me questions. And I think, oh my God, I remember being in their position, and it's quite nice to reflect on it and how quickly it's gone, because I've literally blinked and suddenly I'm entering my last full year. And then I'll be done. University will be finished. And I can't believe it. It's gone so quickly. But yeah, it's nice to kind of reflect and think back and use what I've learned as well to help other people.
Yeah, I catch myself doing that sometimes too. Like I'll go like just scroll through my Instagram feed, my own Instagram feed every once in a while, just to kind of like remember those memories, or to kind of just like, oh yeah, I remember this, remember that. And like every once in a while, it's just kind of fun to do that for the nostalgia.
I had a photo pop up like on the memories thing just before Christmas, and it was my first ever shift on the road, which was November 2019. And I looked at it, and I don't think I've changed, but I looked at that photo and I just look younger, so much younger than I am now. And although it's actually not been that long, as a person, I've grown so much, and I think I can see that in myself. So that's quite nice as well. I like it for that sort of thing.
Yeah, pictures always show you that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the last question, another one we usually ask people is if you have any a favorite motivational quote that you would like to share.
I do, and I actually heard it because someone bought me a keyring with it written on. And I have that keyring on my bag that I take to university still. And it says, "She believed she could, so she did." And I love that, because I think if I hadn't believed in myself, I would not have got to where I am now. And I think self-belief is a massive, massive thing when you're doing something like this. If you don't believe in yourself, then you're not going to get very far, I don't think. So I love that. And I love that little keyring as well.
I love that quote too. I've heard it a few times. Like I hear it every once in a while. I'm like, yeah, that is a very powerful thing.
I see it everywhere now. Like before I got that keyring, I swear I'd never seen it before. But now, yeah, I see it all the time. And I think, oh, I love that. But no, it's still on my bag. It's been on my bag for about 3 years.
Obviously, definitely one of the best gifts then, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. It's gone through about 3 bags now, actually. So it's doing well. It's
awesome.
It's not as shiny as it was, but it's still there.
Well, and it's a constant reminder, right?
Yeah, and it kind of just reflects the whole thing as well. And I love that.
Yeah, amazing. Well, just before we wrap up, is there anything else that you maybe wanted to share? I know we covered a lot, so you don't feel obligated to kind of make something up or think something, but if there is any other last minute things you want to share.
I suppose just kind of back to the keyring thing. If you want to do something, and if a job like this really interests you, then just go for it. There's nothing stopping you, really. I mean, a lot of people worry about their age and that sort of stuff, but if you really want to do something, just do it. I mean, I gave up my full-time job, I gave up my well-paid job, all that sort of stuff to do this, and I wouldn't change any of it. I'm so much happier now, and I feel like I have a bit of a purpose, whereas before I kind of felt like I was just earning money. So I think if you have a genuine interest in it, go away, do a bit of research, and just do it. You've got nothing to lose, really. If it doesn't work out, then you'll be in the same position that you were in before. So yeah, just go for it. And healthcare is a wonderful industry as well. It's so rewarding. I mean, I'm not quite sure how paramedics work across the pond, but over here it's an incredible career, and it's going to be the sort of thing where most days you're going to go home and think, wow, I did something really cool today. And it's great. I think it's the best job in the world, but I'm a bit biased.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how lucky are you to actually say that, like, my job is the best job in the world, and just to love your job so much. Like, that is something that a lot of people don't have, and for whatever reason. And so that's so amazing that you can actually say that.
Yeah, even with things like night shifts and getting up at 4 a.m. and all that sort of stuff, it's hard on the body, but I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's not just like enjoyable, it's exciting and it's interesting, and there's so much to it as well. Even if I don't stay in this role that I am now, being a paramedic or being a healthcare professional opens so many doors for you, and you can go anywhere with it. So I think it's really great.
Amazing. So I do want to thank you, because you shared some really, really amazing insights and some really helpful advice. And I know it is going to be really, really helpful for people listening. So I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to me today. I know it's late where you are. So I appreciate that too.
That's all right. It's getting a bit dark, but the sun's still, I think it's still up a little bit.
Perfect. Yeah, so thank you. And we will definitely be following you and keeping up with you to see how your career goes.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No problem.